Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Patrick's Staycation and Walking the Plankton. And so clearly we're still here neck deep in the SpongeBob's Runaway Road Trip anthology of episodes. Well, the title for Walking the Plankton doesn't quite let on about this fact, but yeah, we're still here. As with many episodes in season 8, these two aren't talked about a lot, so that's not much of a surprise there. I guess what's good about this is that it probably means that these episodes aren't bad, since bad episodes in this season typically get a lot of press. I guess press isn't the right word, but it's the word I'm using. Anyway, as always, thank you all for watching the video today. Your viewership is very much appreciated. And now, let's just get right into it. Patrick's Staycation is the second episode of the SpongeBob's Runaway Road Trip series, and let me tell you that it is definitely not as good as the first, that's for sure. I mean, the name itself kind of lets you know in a way, because an episode about Patrick of all people taking a staycation, yeah, okay. But I know I'm being hard on this episode already. The title only tells us that Patrick will stay in Bikini Bottom, not what he'll be getting up to, which could theoretically be anything at all. So perhaps this episode will have a more complex plot than it first seems, or perhaps it'll be a simply plotted episode with lots of good comedy. I mean, I guess since I started this introduction with that first sentence, you can guess how it turns out, but hey, there could always be surprises in store. Just like the previous episode and all the episodes in this little anthology, we begin with a presentation of a slideshow. And compared to a SquarePants family vacation, Patrick's slide scene is kinda boring, so this isn't exactly a great beginning to our episode here. I don't really understand how Patrick's foolishness has turned into him being completely random at any and all opportunities. Like, those are two different qualities, first of all. But more importantly, I don't really find it to be very entertaining. I did enjoy his shadow puppets, though. But back to this first little bit being boring, really, this is pretty indicative of the episode as a whole, because I think that a big problem that this episode has is being fucking boring. It's almost like we're backsliding into season 6 territory, except I find this to be a different flavor of boring. Whereas those episodes felt like reruns on a Sunday afternoon, these feel more like background noise on a weekday after a long day of work and you're scrolling on your phone. A completely different vibe to me. But anyway, gags in this episode last way too long and lose all their potential humor by the time they finish, such as this one with Patrick opening up his house when SpongeBob knocks. Patrick's dilemma here is both funny and also kinda odd considering the existence of Big Pink Loser. Well, it's funny until they keep dragging it out, such as when SpongeBob and Patrick go to the travel agent. Like, okay, we get it, Patrick thinks he's overworked or whatever, let's move on. His dilemma is somewhat relatable though, as someone who gets so exhausted from doing nothing all day. There's an optimal level of stimulation for everyone, and when I'm not meeting it, I feel like I lose my head. At least SpongeBob and Patrick getting kicked out for having no money to put towards a vacation was funny. Since Patrick has no money, SpongeBob suggests that he have a staycation, making a vacation out of being at home. When Patrick begins his staycation, I'm torn between being annoyed that SpongeBob pops up immediately and being relieved that we won't be reliving Rise and Shine, which is likely what this episode would have turned into without the Sponge's presence. And then we get a joke that is far less funny than anything that Krusty Towers had to offer, mostly because it's so fucking dull. At least SpongeBob's reaction was funny, and it uses my favorite steel lick, so I like that at least. I also go back and forth between finding Patrick annoying and finding him funny, because SpongeBob did go to all of this trouble to make this staycation feel like an actual vacation, and Patrick keeps making all of these ridiculous requests, but like, he also did a similar thing in Krusty Towers, and that was actually funny. I think the difference is he was asking these things to a real establishment in that episode, and in this one he's making his best friend do all of these things for him, but also he didn't actually ask SpongeBob to do this, so it makes it a lot easier to swallow for me. The part at the pool is very hard to watch, as you might have guessed if you're familiar with this scene, and y'all know I don't like slow-mo, so I'm annoyed. SpongeBob getting dressed in yet another outfit to save Patrick is pretty funny, especially when you think of SpongeGuard on duty, and then the being torn between Patrick being annoying and not being annoying continues as SpongeBob serves him food and even entertainment. And also, I can't think of the SpongeBob Follies moment without thinking of a certain reviewer. I'm telling you, I used to be a fan back in the day, and those two list videos were the ones I watched the most. It just makes me laugh today. And perhaps they aren't nice laughs. Anyway. Patrick then wanders over to Squidward's house and starts eating his food. And again, this part isn't funny, but it isn't bad. It's just dull and feels like it drags on and on as I wait to laugh. Like, we're wasting time. And what's funny is that I can think of a way that this scene could have been hilarious. When Patrick acts like Squidward is a waiter, cut back to the outside, right? And then, like, show Patrick being kicked out of Squidward's house, just like SpongeBob and Patrick were kicked out earlier. That would be funny, and it would be a callback. A win-win. I at least like that Squidward pushed Patrick off the massage table and had SpongeBob give him one, though in the end I do just feel bad for SpongeBob since all he does in this episode is serve other people to his own detriment, especially as Patrick just ends up sleeping in his fucking house. At least this leads the episode to end on the hilarious joke of SpongeBob sleeping in Mr. Krabs' house. Like, that was a great ending, and I love that Mr. Krabs was just a cool fit. SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs, father-son crumbs for the win. Patrick's Staycation is one of those episodes where it only gets really, like, good at the very end, and by that point it's much too late to consider the episode good as a whole. Honestly, this one is just a boring and dull one, other than a few moments where the only emotion I was feeling was negative. I just don't get why Patrick has to be an ass. That's never been the basis of his comedy, not even when he has good interactions with Squidward, which hasn't happened in quite a bit, to be honest. This is easily my least favorite in the Vacation anthology so far, which I know isn't saying much as this is only the second entry, but still. And so this episode is being placed in my okay tier, where it comes in with a score of 6.2 out of 10. Next up, we've got the next episode in this vacation or road trip anthology, Walking the Plankton. This is an episode that I mostly remember because of that Flash game I mentioned 2 reviews ago, Oh Snap Road Trip, not because of anything that actually happens in the episode. Considering that I somewhat struggle with remembering Season 8 episodes compared to the rest of the show, I wouldn't really say that this is necessarily a bad thing at all, it's just a thing that is true. This episode starts off with a gorgeous, gorgeous background, go background painters go, and of course another slideshow as this is part of the anthology. The slideshow is pretty entertaining again, which is an improvement over the previous installment, and I like all the characters that are a part of it. It makes me wonder what the backstory to this slideshow even is, like why did all of these people agree to watch Plankton's slideshow, at SpongeBob's house no less. After an enjoyable little sequence of Plankton failing to show his slides, SpongeBob's innovation saves the day. I like that this episode is kind of about Plankton and Karen taking a second honeymoon, even if Plankton's second love of stealing the formula threatens to take precedence. Not even threatens, actually, it does take precedence, which is the whole reason for them going on the vacation in the first place. And I like the idea of having a Krabs and Plankton episode taking place in a different location than usual, just so we could get some different shenanigans and scenery. When the episode proper begins, I love the joke with the mailman, as that was hilarious, and a great joke for the older kids and adults, as I don't think 7-year-olds know what parole is. Or, well, actually, let me take that back. I think some 7-year-olds do, but ones who may not have had any experience with it probably don't. Anyway, I've always loved that this show has never lost its touch with that older/old or adult humor being in, like, nearly every episode. The plot moves along quite nicely, with Mr. Krabs winning free tickets to a cruise, and I love how he brings SpongeBob along with him. It's not quite in the wholesome way of cracked crabs, but I'll accept this anyway. Especially after the ending of last episode. Give me all the Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob father-son crumbs. As for the general plot of this episode, with Plankton trying to not alert Karen to the fact that he's trying to steal the formula on their fabricated honeymoon, I'm not exactly a fan of plots like this, where one character tries to hide something from another for the entire episode, because of their foregone conclusions, and the fact that it isn't necessarily a pleasant thing to watch, even when not done, excellently, but it's done well enough here, I suppose, especially since it isn't a huge focus of the episode in the end. I of course would have liked it even more if Plankton was completely focused on having a nice vacation with Karen, and then he maybe notices Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob on the cruise and decides to take the opportunity. I think this is something that newer episodes do better, actually showing Plankton and Karen being a functional married couple, because that's my main issue with the plot being what it is. Plankton just disrespecting Karen and their marriage for 11 minutes straight. It's not fun. Back to the episode, it's pretty good and decent. We've got some funny jokes here and there, like Plankton getting run over, which hilariously makes him give up for a bit, and I like my favorite steel lick being used once again, so that's a win. But there are a few things that don't work as well, such as the scene in the sauna. In general, I do like the shenanigans of both SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs enjoying their vacation, and Plankton completely failing at his task. The part where he drops off the boat is quite morbid, considering the amount of people who go missing on cruises due to that exact or very similar scenario. The land buffet part was also a very interesting bit of world building, which I always love to see. And of course, only Mr. Krabs would find a way to make money on a vacation. SpongeBob bringing a portable grill is also so very him and also brilliant. And it also reminds me of SpongeBob SquarePants versus the Big One. I also really like how, since Mr. Krabs is on vacation and has his guard down, he easily falls for Plankton's disguise, at least until Plankton reveals himself. Both of them conning the other is great too. And then I love the attitude with which SpongeBob snatches away the patty. Like, that was just funny to me. And of course, Plankton just like crashes into Karen, which just about ends that whole charade. The end of the episode is great as well, with Karen just slicing everything up with the death laser, Mr. Krabs losing all his customers, and then also a reprise of the "if I wasn't on parole" joke from earlier. Not to mention Plankton and Karen riding off in a lifeboat. Walking the Plankton was a pretty good episode, and I really like how Karen had some focus here. Not quite enough for me to say that she really did a ton in this episode, but this was some major improvement compared to most of her previous showings. Eventually, we'll get to the kind of action Girls' Night Out provides. Eventually, anyway. Other than that, the episode is pretty enjoyable. It does use a plot structure I'm not quite a fan of, and it's not consistently funny, but I still enjoy it a lot. And so all of this is why this episode is being put in my great tier, where it comes in with a score of 8.3 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. This pair of episodes made me think about how what I really like about this little anthology is having the characters be in different locations, since we tend to stick around just a few locations in Bikini Bottom, though newer episodes have definitely expanded on this. I guess this is one of the reasons why Patrick's Staycation was at a disadvantage right out the gate, but it could have been a fun spin on the concept. It wasn't, but it could have. I think the relative dullness of the backgrounds for Patrick's house compared to any other location in the show also didn't help matters in that regard. I was thinking of that as I was getting the images of this episode for this video's visuals. Like, it's just this off-white color all over the place, not the vibrant blues, greens, reds, and other colors found in this show's other locations, especially as different shots of Patrick's interior all kind of blend together because of the aforementioned single color. I'm telling y'all, backgrounds are important. It's like the OST. You may not always notice when it's good, but you'll probably notice when it's bad. Not that these background arts are bad, they're still painted amazingly, but they are somewhat featureless and dull. As for Walking the Plankton, I'm not sure if I've got much in the way of closing thoughts for that. A while ago, I was on a little hyper-focus moment with shipwrecks, and I've also had that same thing happen except with disappearances on cruise ships, so that's why I happen to know that little fact about people going missing on cruise ships and how it's most often because of them falling off of the railing, often because they're drunk, and so they drown and or freeze for one reason or another. Pretty morbid to have Plankton meet the same fate, just without dying because this is a cartoon. Alright. Well, I think that's just about all I've got for y'all today, so I'm gonna close things out here, and I'll see y'all in the next review.